All right, everybody. Hey, welcome. This is Jeremiah Demre, founder of Advisors. I'm here with my good buddy, Baraket Kilele, the man, the myth, the legend himself. We're going to have some fun today talking about the incredible response rates that he's been getting. If you're here watching us live, everybody, go ahead, give us a love in the bottom here. Say hello. We want to say hi to you guys and make sure we make this a really fun and interactive experience. We want to make sure we join all you guys. There is something cool that we want to try. I was talking to Baraket right before we hopped on. There's a chat feature that we want to try with Restream. So I'm going to post a link underneath where we're going live right now. And it's like chat.restream.io/Facebook. If you guys want to have a chat with us and you want it to show up here inside of Restream where we can kind of feature your questions and comments for Baraket, we're trying to test it out. It might break everything. I have no idea. But Lady, let's give it a try, okay? So I put this in there, and I already see Russ. He says, thanks for doing this. You're very welcome, Russ. And I think, he's directing that to you, Baraket. So thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's get started. Let's just start a little bit. So ultimately today, you've probably joined us live today because you want to learn how Baraket is getting a 71% acceptance rate on his connections on LinkedIn. And for all of us who might be new to LinkedIn, LinkedIn 101, you should know that for every 100 people you ask to connect, the average person, the average male advisor, okay, this industry is strongly weighted on the male side, is going to be about 22 to 25%. That means 75% of people are never going to connect with you. And that's just kind of the norm. If you're a woman advisor, we're seeing that goes at a high as maybe 32, 35%. Okay. Baraket has 71. So when we said he's getting a 300% plus, we said we have to share this story because there's probably a lesson that can be learned for the advisor community here. So we're really grateful you're here, Baraket, and you're willing to spend a little time away from your new baby to share the insights today. So let's get started with the basics, Baraket. So where you dialing in from today?
So I'm here in Northern California. This is where I was born and raised in Sacramento area.
Beautiful, beautiful. And how did you get into the insurance and financial planning business?
So I got into it in 2020, of all years. Before this, I was doing financial coaching, and I had gotten training through the Dave Ramsey network in that world, and was doing a lot of work with, and I still do, helping people get out of debt and, managing their money better, money habits and all that stuff. And so from that, it just kind of expanded, and found out that there's a way to also help people with investments. And so that kind of led me into the financial advising, kind of world, and saw that as a potential prospect for me. And so I really liked the way it looked. And then I just jumped into it and did all my licensing tests and everything last year. I kind of went on I don't know if it's a record, but I did like all 4 of my exams like within like a couple of months in July and August last year, and just went on a kind of a testing binge. And so September 2020, I think, is when I went active. So
that sounds like how the sommeliers study to become a master sommelier. Like they kind of huddle into a hotel room for like months, and they just taste wine and then guess the regions. And you just went all out Matrix on it, didn't you?
Yep. That's pretty much how it went. Yeah.
You're like, I know financial planning.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's inspiring. What is it? Just something I like to ask all of our rock star advisors. What's something surprising about you that not a lot of people know?
Something surprising. Part of it is kind of the niche that we'll talk about later, but a lot of people don't know about my military background. And another thing is just some of the passions that I have that I'm interested in, and some of the little passion projects I'm working on. And that's also kind of part of why I got into it. So I think those are kind of the things that people find interesting.
Yeah. Very cool. You care to share any of them?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, the big one for me was working on this documentary film project, and it has to do with the war between Ethiopia and Italy in the 1930s. And I actually got connected with a guy out of Toronto, and he wrote a book about it, and we connected on Facebook and a few years back. And it was something that we were just kind of both interested in, both history buffs. Comes from a kind of journalism background, so he writes with that kind of narrative style. And we both kind of set off on this interesting journey together. It's a couple of yokels,
That's very cool. Why Ethiopia? Do you have a background? Is your family, is that where your history is from?
Yeah. My parents immigrated here back in the 80s with my older brother from Ethiopia. Okay. So I was born here, and so I've always had interest in history in general, but certainly in Ethiopian history as well. So
amazing. That's some of my favorite food, Ethiopian food.
It's very good food.
Yeah, absolutely. No knives and forks. We're going all in with our hands here, guys.
Oh, yeah.
It's very communal, right? It has a nice community feel to it. Yeah.
Sometimes you eat from the same plate,
Yeah. I mean, and that really is a nice metaphor for what you've been able to do virtually in that building relationships. And that's something, having the privilege to have coached, over 100,000 advisors over 15 years. One of the toughest things I've seen advisors struggle with is trying to see themselves outside of the context of I'm just an advisor. And how do I build a relationship with a human first? And then, all this other stuff is secondary. How do you really connect with somebody? So I love that metaphor of knives and forks away, which could be like our profession is, let's put our professions aside. Let's grab that bread and let's, scoop it up and let's eat together and share a moment, right? Share a moment. Yeah. So let's pivot a little bit into the challenges. Like you're in the first 5 years of advising. And as my good buddy Michael Keitzes says, the grind is grindier in the first 5 years. Like that is really the toughest part of being an advisor is the first 5 years, because you might not have a real network. You're still kind of getting, your scripting, your verbiage, who you are, your ethos, your identity. You don't have a lot of track record of proof. So a lot of that self noise comes into play. Yeah. So what challenges did you have in meeting new prospects prior to being one of our clients?
I think it was a lot of what you said. It's just being new and, hoping nobody asks you how long you've been doing this. And I think the fear that also that people might ask a question you don't know the answer to. And, that the expertise might trump, the desire to serve in the prospect's mind. And so it's, just starting out and wanting to see results quick. I'm an anxious guy, and I want to get there now, and just going through that learning curve, that steep part of the curve where you're kind of building the habits and building you're building the expertise, building the knowledge. You're just that's kind of the challenge that I face. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. I think a lot of our watchers can probably sympathize with that as well. So how did you hear about Advisorist? How did you hear about us?
It was actually through one of my colleague advisors at my company who told me about it right around a year ago. She would attend the virtual advisor power hours. And so she mentioned it to me. She kind of, both her and I, we use social media a bit. And so she thought it'd be good for me to check it out. And so I attended a few of those and would watch and try to learn what I could. So yeah, that was my first introduction to you.
Awesome. Yeah, we always have a lot of fun, and you actually, it's so funny because you actually were a guest of ours.
Yeah.
Like about a month ago, just talking about this. Today we're gonna, dive even a little deeper. That's awesome. So, tell us a little bit about, so you came into our process, and with you, we specifically worked on LinkedIn prospecting. We typically see that it's the individuals with a higher net worth. They're leaning in. 76% of high net worth individuals lean in to look for advice on LinkedIn. Most advisors just look like every other advisor. It just says, their professional headline is literally financial advisor or life insurance agent or, a financial professional. And sadly, we just haven't met them yet, the ones that we can help. But that's kind of what the industry does. And the joke that I like to make is I could probably take your headshot off and replace it with somebody else's, and you guys would have the same profile.
Yeah,
You know, like I could swap headshots and it really wouldn't make a difference about your profile because everybody's the same. And even though we're in a very compliant heavy environment, you still can do a lot of things as long as you're not promissory and as long as you're not making any wild claims or trying to pitch products. And most advisors don't kind of get that. So you went through a journey, and let's be real, like for the first couple of weeks, it was a little tough for you, but you had a big breakthrough. So what was the breakthrough for you, Barakat, going through this process?
Yeah, I think it was what you mentioned earlier about connecting with people on a human level first. And, I think naturally I was thinking, I got to put out stuff about what I do and, share these articles and content and everything. But I think working with the coaching team, the big epiphany for me was that I need to just tell people who I am and everything about me, and then use that to connect with people and be very clear. And in doing that, you kind of carve out your niche, and it makes it very clear who's your audience and who isn't.
Was that a scary process to commit to a niche?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I talked with one of the coaches, Rob, and we had talked for a while before we finally got around to it. And I think that's probably because I had just kind of kept that covered over there in the corner, and I wasn't going to go, uncover it. And so it was, especially when we were talking about just kind of what hobbies do I have? And that's always a tough question for me because I just don't have any right now. But it was working through that blockage. We finally got to what was passionate, what's important to me, what really kind of lights me up. And then that just kind of really opened up the floodgates. And, the funny thing is, this was all stuff that was there. I just, learned to ignore it, or it just kind of faded into the background, and you need someone else. That's why coaching is so helpful. It's what I do with a lot of my coaching clients is I give them the benefit of just having that outside perspective. And a lot of times there are blind spots that you just can't see that you need someone else to point out for you.
Yeah, so true. So, a lot of us fear letting others know who we really are.
Yeah.
Right. What would happen if I tell people that I'm into documentaries? What'll happen if I tell them that I'm into Marvel Comics? What'll happen if I tell them that I have a dog? Like, we really obsess about that kind of stuff. But what I've discovered, and I had to go through that journey many times, is that people lean in more when they know more about you personally.
Yeah.
And when you can find a connection, a human connection based on a common interest, there's no email nurturing sequence that can beat that. Right? Like there's no automated cool hack that can beat a human connection, because we were designed to connect with each other.
Yeah.
And when you're you have a part of the brain that lights up when you get into Ethiopian Italian history, right?
Yeah.
And when you meet somebody else who does that, and you've definitely lots of parts of your brain which light up related to your military background, which we'll talk about in just a second. When you connect with other people that are vets, all of a sudden it's magic. So let's talk about that. I actually want to bring up on the screen here your LinkedIn profile, which didn't look anything at all like what it was when you came here. So let me just bring up on the screen here. Hopefully everybody can see that. All right. So we've got this is your LinkedIn profile. Tell us about the evolution. This does not look like your average advisor, right? Excuse me. So you had this breakthrough, right? What was the niche you decided to focus on?
It was a combination of veterans and entrepreneurs. And that just kind of goes back to, my background. I'm a veteran myself, prior service Air Force. And then I'm also now, going down the entrepreneur journey, and, really learned that there are a lot of people who are doing that, making that transition, especially. And so we just built the niche around that.
Yeah. And so here's some of the things that we helped, that we kind of extrapolated from you, right? The importance of an attractive banner. So what I noticed here, and there's a lot of cool details here. You got a couple entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Does this have a special significance?
Yeah, it's a rank insignia for senior airmen, and so anyone who's enlisted will know that's one of the ranks, and so they'll recognize that.
Very good. So see, that's it. Like, to me, I understand it's a military patch, but I don't know what division of the military, and I don't know the rank. But somebody who sees that is like, oh, that's who this guy is. It's like putting triggers inside your profile that most people leave completely blank, right? So having those little triggers that say, here's what I'm about, are like magnets that draw people in. I thought this was amazing. You have a beautiful family. Put it up there, right?
That was the feedback I got from other colleagues and other individuals, like, hey, you need to use this. So how do I get this in there?
That's beautiful. And then you have tell us a little bit about this, 2007 and 2021. What does this mean for you?
Yeah, and actually that credit goes to Brianna on that. That was kind of her idea of encapsulating that transition. 2007, that's me there in the Air Force, and then 2021 is me today, and then the text there just kind of just reinforces that transition. That's kind of the before and after. A military background, and now moved over to business owner, entrepreneur.
No, I appreciate that, and this really is a beautiful way to show that transition. But what it makes me think of, the before and afters of, marketing, like the skinny guy who becomes a buff guy, right? Or the girl's overweight who becomes super sexy, right? Like that whole before and after thing, people relate to that. That's embedded in our mind. What a great concept. The other thing too, that you did through our coaching is you worked on your unique sales proposition. So you replaced the standard professional headline with an actual call to action, or what we call unique sales proposition. Tell us a little bit about your vision here and why that's important to you.
Yeah, one of the things I learned too as we were working with the coaches is that a lot of times entrepreneurs are big idea people, and one of the things that I had mentioned was that it seems like for me the business is just really there as a way to kind of fund the things I actually want to do. And so it's almost like not even really about the business per se. It's just kind of a means to an end. And what I've learned too is just when you look at entrepreneurs at any level, any industry, you'll find that usually there's some kind of impact that they're trying to create in the world. There's something that they care about, and you don't really have to dig too deep in order to find it. And so it was just a way to kind of bring that out, and just a cue to others who are in that same frame of mind that I get it. I'm there too.
Yeah. One thing I really appreciate about your niche. So this is all about, hopefully you guys can all see why it's like making a delicious cake, right? You have to have the right ingredients. Now, I was raised in a very European influenced city, Montreal, Canada. So that's where I was raised. And Europeans do not scrimp on quality. Like, the cultural code definition of quality in the United States is works. Like if something works, it's considered quality. In Europe, the standard is like, it has to be exceptional, right? Like there's no such thing as being okay with the standard in Europe. I mean, even your local cheese shop will sell cheeses that here in the US is like, will blow your mind. So I remember growing up on, pastries and baguettes and croissants and, desserts and all this kind of stuff. And, the Europeans who immigrated to Montreal and established like traditional French bakeries, or even like the Jamaican restaurant, it's actually Jamaicans who are making the food. The Mexican restaurant, it's Mexicans making food. The Indian restaurant, it's Indian grandmas in the back making food. Like it's very authentic. It was really interesting. I had an experience about a month ago where I went to a local place that was called Italian eateries and stuff. And where I was raised, Italians make some of the best food on earth. But when my wife and I, as a treat, we bought like a dessert, And as we started to eat it, we're like, what is this? And basically you could taste the margarine and you could taste the poorest form of sugar you could find. And we don't eat a lot of sweets. So when we do, it's got to be amazing. But we were like, you know what? We could tell they replaced butter with margarine. We could tell they replaced, fine quality sugars with something terrible. And it reminds me of this because people try to put together the perfect LinkedIn profile, but they miss so many key ingredients. They might do one thing right, but there's like a whole science and an art to putting together a LinkedIn profile. So when people see it, they're like, that's my guy, that's my dude, right?
Yeah.
Or that's my girl.
Yeah.
And you've done, there's so many things we don't have time to go in today's training, but tell me about vetrepreneurs. Tell me about that, because that's something I loved when you kind of told me about this.
Yeah, that was something that I stole from one of the prospects I talked to, and I love the term because it just speaks to, it just kind of captures everything in that one word. And it was just a nice little shorthand kind of phrase to use, and it's something that's no one uses, so when you hear it, it kind of jumps out at you. But it also just, again, it encapsulates who I am and who I use to kind of connect with and build that kind of niche market, those veterans who became, entrepreneurs. So.
Yeah. And I love this, like you could tell this is your life passion. I use this drive to show other veterans how to build a foundation for their business while still protecting their family's well-being. And everything about you screams that. You've got your family in your picture. You've got, like, even I'm looking like in the back there, it's all family behind you, right? Yeah. Beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah. So you're very congruent in your value system. So some of the takeaways I want our listeners to walk away with today is choose a niche, right? Now, through our coaching, we were able to help you discover how to find veterans on LinkedIn. There's hundreds of thousands of them, probably even millions, and how to approach them and how to engage them and how to communicate in a way that, meets LinkedIn standards, first of all, but also does it in a genuine way, which all of those recipes in that perfect cake create a 71% acceptance rate, because when people see this, they're like, this is my guy. This is my people. He does it doesn't feel, even though it's very clear you're an advisor, it doesn't feel like you're being pitched. And that's the secret, everybody. That's the secret that we are so grateful to have helped Barry Kett with, and what we do with advisors every single day is to find that secret formula for each one of us, so you can show up on your authentic self. So I'm going to stop my screen sharing here because I want to talk a little bit about the quality of the conversation. So I know you took a little bit of time off recently, but when this machine was running, how many conversations were you having a week?
I was getting up to about 5 to 10 appointments a week. That's about what my schedule can kind of handle. And so it was getting up and running. I found that it was pretty easy to get that conversation, that first call booked. And it really just seemed to open up the door, and it wasn't really much of a fight to schedule that. Even when I got neutral responses, I would just respond, hey. I would usually just kind of look at the profile and say, hey, find something that it was interesting, and just said, hey, let's jump on the Zoom for a quick virtual coffee chat. And usually it's pretty easy to do that, and people usually just opened up and felt it was just very comfortable and relaxed. Just getting to that first call. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what happens in terms of the human connection with you when you get people onto the Zoom, right? Like, compare that to what it was like before. Now that you're dealing with a niche and you're dealing with kind of your tribe, how does that make you feel as an advisor and just as a human being, in this profession, in the hardest part of this profession, which is the first 5 years?
Yeah, I think the quality of the conversation is a lot different, a lot better, because there's an understanding there with the person that you're talking to across the screen. There's already, I think, an openness and a trust. There's that shared experience. And a lot of times that's what we kind of spend the first 10 minutes or so just talking about, just learning, because there's so many different jobs you can do, in the military, right? So a lot of it's just kind of finding out, hey, what did you do? Where did you serve? I talked to a guy a couple of weeks ago who worked on nuclear technology. So he was working on carriers, running their nuclear reactors. And there's probably not even 100 people who kind of do what he does in the world, and he's just been a year into his business, and he was just talking about the journey too on that front, and that was something I just kind of resonated with. So we, there's just that connection was there, and so the points to talk about, the points of connection there. It was just much different quality of conversation, a lot more relaxed, and there's not that pressure, the sales pressure, so. Yeah,
that sales pressure can make you feel a little icky, right?
yeah, and they're not feeling like, oh, I wonder why he's calling. Like, when's the shoe gonna drop?
Yeah, and that just leaves for a much more positive experience. You actually enjoy doing your business more, right? Because you're leading with a human connection as opposed to leading like, do you have a bag of money over your head? Because if you do, then that's what I want to bring into my assets, or I have a policy for you. Boy, do I got something for you, kind of thing.
Right.
And that conversation just, disappears. So, in our program, we talk about, creating a unique sales proposition. So when, at the end of the day, when somebody does ask you, hey, what do? You have a one-liner you can drop that is so compelling that as people are like, wow, yeah, like I'd be interested in that. And you know what? It's not for everybody, right? The goal is not 100% conversion. It's 100% conversion of the right people.
Right.
And that might be 10%. That might be 20%. That might be 30%. It's different for each individual. What could you tell a lot of people watching this right now have probably heard about our coaching program, have, seen me talk about it, maybe even applied for it. As somebody who's been, gone through it, what could you tell us about the kind of coaches that you've been working with to help you get here?
The coaches are really good. They're really great. And I mean, it's that support is, I think, definitely crucial, especially if it's something that's new and it's something that is not quite yet second nature. They do a really good job of guiding you through it. And it's also good walking through it in a group with others. And you can also see how they coach others and also learn from that too. So that group dynamic and then the one-on-one, the support is, I think it's really helpful. They'll definitely help you. For me, I know it helped me to really kind of get it so that even I think a year from now, I'll still be experimenting and tinkering and innovating, but I've kind of built the foundation. I know that really helped me to kind of make it click to understand here's what I need to do. And it just helps you get up and running.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, Chris and Brianna, Rob, Kelly, the whole gang, I'm so grateful to have them. They really care. They lean in, they really try to help everybody. What would you say to an advisor, Barakat, that's maybe been on the sidelines of LinkedIn, right? Or the sidelines of, working with a coach or investing into a system, and, they're just kind of considering it and they're hearing you and they're hearing this. What word of encouragement might you have for them?
Well, I would say that the value for me, certainly up to this point, has been just developing that niche and having getting to this point where I'm sharing myself authentically and putting that out there. And I know that it's had an impact and it's changing the way I see how this marketing works and how I communicate, out to the world. And it's really kind of shifted my thinking from trying to make myself look like an expert to just trying to, give people an honest, clear picture of who I am, a window into me and what I care about. And I think that's what people also, it resonates with people because I think that's what people also care about too. I don't actually think people go on to LinkedIn to read all the articles and all that stuff. I think they're still interested in, travel and puppies and food and all the other things that, that they care about. And so I think it's just a great way to really think about how to position yourself, how to connect with others. I think for me, that was just the key epiphany, is that I think that's what the program will help them with, is learning how to build that human connection. And I think it'll also just kind of shape the way you have conversations just across the board.
I really appreciate that. And you're a great example of an advisor who gets it, right? You understand that in order to get from here to there, piecemealing it, taking a couple of tricks from different places is not going to be the recipe to success. It's creating a framework Processes will always outperform people. If you've got a great process, you can take someone who's a B player, put them into an A player process, and you can turn them into an A player because it's more about the process, right? As opposed to, wow, this person is just unique. They happen to be the needle in the haystack. They're one of those rare cases where lightning struck and they're just magnificent. But what we've discovered building this process for hundreds of advisors is that if you follow a process and you learn to think about this as a human interaction, as opposed to where's my leads kind of thing, you're going to enjoy the process. You're going to find out who you are and find your voice. And that is something that is one of the most powerful things you can do in any career, is find your voice and be comfortable with who you are, right?
Yeah.
And then from there, go into a process that showcases those authentic pieces of you, and then enjoy that and turn those people that connect with you into your best clients. And then many of them will probably become your friends or even best friends because you're working with people who get you already. It's like your profile did all the screening for them, and all you're getting is the people who totally get you.
Yeah. And I think if you open up your mind to the possibility too, there's other ways in which that you might be able to connect with people that are not maybe directly related to the line of work you're doing, but in more indirect ways too. I mean, I think you just have to look at it as you're connecting with people and see yourselves as the intersection, and you're starting to kind of build this network, and you just never know how these connections are going to eventually kind of build to some other opportunity. You just got to kind of keep your mind open to that I'm just learning about people, what they do. You're learning a lot in the process, and in addition to just trying to grow your book. So it's interesting to think kind of what, the ramifications of that could be.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because you get this at a young age. I was talking with a guy who's in his late 60s who has a very successful practice in Florida, and all of his clients are over $1 million of assets, and him and his 3 sons are just, doing really, really well. But he said something very interesting to me. He said, Jeremiah, all I do is I make friends all day. Mm-hmm. And here's a guy, I think in LPL, he's like number 17 or 15 or something like that. And he was in top 20 in LPL. So he's doing really, really well. And I thought that was just an interesting way to describe what one does for work. But I can tell you, he didn't always feel that way. Mm-hmm. That wasn't always his journey. But for you to grasp that as a younger advisor, and man, do we ever need younger advisors in the space, for you to get that it's about relationships, it's about creating those friendships and then leveraging a system to help you do that. You are so far ahead of the game that I can't wait to see what happens to you, in 12 months from now, 24 months, and projecting 10 years down the road when your little girl's 10 years old, and who knows what kind of business you're going to have, right? It's very inspiring. And these connections, who knows where they're going to lead you to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful. We're going to wrap it up here. Any final words of wisdom for our friends, words of encouragement for advisors out there?
Yeah, again, just the main takeaway is just talk with someone, just lay yourself bare, be vulnerable, and don't be afraid to put out there what those things that are interesting about you, unique about you. And you don't have to necessarily be completely different from everyone else, just what really makes you tick. And I would say really think about that question. What makes you tick? What makes you excited? What's the thing that I think you asked this question in the Facebook group? What can you talk about without any notes or anything, and just riff on that? Those things, that's the gold. And just be willing to put that out there and connect with people first on a human level, and start there. And that, for me, that was the epiphany for me. So that's what I would leave with people.
Yeah. You're getting a lot of nice comments here. Somebody's just posted below here. Wow, Barraquette, huge steps from when we initially spoke. Congrats, keep rocking it. I can't see who that is from, but I have a feeling that's Rob or Brianna. Rob or Brianna. That's one of the 2 people I think that posted that. So thank you so much, guys. If you guys want to give a shout out to Barraquette for investing his time to help all of you succeed, give us a shout out below. If you've connected through Restream, well, actually, that was Uget. I think Uget was the one who actually first had that conversation with you. Very nice. Yeah. Very nice. That's great. We've got other people chiming in here. They're so happy to see your success. That's beautiful. Well, thank you, Baraket, for being here. Thanks for being a member of Shift Nation, for being a soon-to-be graduate of the Shift Accelerator LinkedIn program, and for just being out here and sharing, your wisdom with us. We're truly, truly grateful.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So, folks, you heard it from Baraket today, who came on, devoted a little bit of time after he's going to run back to his beautiful 1-year-old daughter now. But if you'd like to get the same results or different or better results than Baraket, please come and check us out here right at the link below. You can get a complimentary LinkedIn appointment audit. We're going to take a look at your profile. We'll take a look at what you're doing, what's not working in your business, and see if we're a good fit to serve you. Either way, we're going to leave you in a better place than we found you. Just go ahead and click on you may not be able to click on this link, but go to meetwithadvisorists.com, meetwithadvisorists.com. You'll see a wall of fame from other individuals just like Baraket who have come through this journey of finding who they were, finding their voice, projecting it, and then finally dealing with people who who really get them and want to work with them 5, 10, 15 appointments a week. We'd love to see you there. Go to meetwithadvisorists.com. And once you fill that in, you actually get right onto our calendar. You can talk to one of our coaches, and we'd love to be able to support you guys. Got some nice comments coming in. Thank you so much. Eric saying right here, much appreciated to have access to this success story. You're very welcome. Thanks for watching us on LinkedIn as well. We appreciate that. Someone else is chiming in here. Congratulations and great job to Baraket. Someone else is another one. You're getting all these shout outs, Baraket. That's good. Oh, here we go. Here's one you're going to like. Congrats from one airman to another.
Thank you.
Nice. That's all going on in the Facebook group. If you guys can, Jason is sharing here. Thanks for sharing your comments. We're inspiring. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate you watching here live on Facebook. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Baraket, we'll let you get back to your beautiful family. I know your little daughter's there at the door, wants to spend time with daddy. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks.
All right.